Good evening. You've done enough for one day, even if your mind is still trying to invoice you for every unfinished thought. Let that internal committee stand down. Let your breathing slow until it feels less like work and more like permission. Tonight, you're not here to fix anything. You're here to be carried, quietly, by a story where the loudest thing is grass whispering under stars. In your mind, you step into a wide field of tall grass. Stalks rise high and sway in long, patient waves, as if the land is practicing the calm you've been trying to imitate all day. The air is cool with leftover daylight, scented with dry seed, warm earth, and a thin ribbon of smoke that tells you someone nearby knows how to keep a small flame alive without turning it into a crisis. Here's the honest little wink before sleep catches you. You probably won't survive this story with your eyelids fully open, not because it's dull, because it's gentle, because it refuses to chase you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and let me know how your day has really been, your worries, your exhaustion, or even a tiny joy that made you smile. I'm here to truly listen and offer the most sincere, heartfelt advice I can. Now, turn off the lights, take a deep, slow breath, let your tiredness melt away, and gently close your eyes. Let's drift together into tonight's dreamlike lands. And tomorrow morning, if you still remember, send me a message and tell me what you dreamed. You move forward through the grasslands as if you're entering a quieter version of the world, one that doesn't demand explanations. Each step makes a soft hush as stalks brush your legs and slide away again. The last colors of sunset linger low, teal fading into indigo. Then the sky deepens and the first stars sharpen into place. More appear, then many. The Milky Way comes into view not with drama, but with certainty. A pale river poured across the dark, textured with dense, misty clusters and darker lanes like deep water. You tilt your head back and feel something in you loosen, because the Star River is ancient and steady and completely uninterested in your worries. Ahead, the grass thins over a shallow rise where the ground is pressed flat by many evenings of sitting. You sense people before you see them, dark shapes arranged in a loose circle, close enough to share warmth, open enough to let the night breathe. Their stillness is not stiff, it's practiced, the kind of calm that comes from living under open sky and learning what matters. At the center of their circle, a brass oil lamp glows. The flame is small and disciplined, sheltered from the wind, and it makes a warm pocket of light without trying to conquer the darkness. Beside it rests a woven reed basket, wide and sturdy, worn in the good way, proof of years of hands and use. Inside are folded cloths and a few smooth stones that catch the lamplight in shell gold flashes when the breeze shifts. A faint herbal scent rises from the basket's mouth, clean and bitter, like leaves warmed by hands. You approach slowly, not because anyone threatens you, but because the quiet feels expensive. The tribe notices you in the way people notice weather, without alarm, without spectacle. A shoulder shifts, a head tilts upward and then settles again. A space opens near the lamp with small, ordinary movements that feel like hospitality rather than ceremony. A hand smooths the earth once, inviting you to sit. You lower yourself onto the packed ground and feel the day's warmth still held inside it. The night air cools your wrists and the back of your neck. The lamp's heat touches your face in gentle pulses. In that soft light, colors emerge from shadow. Indigo cloth draped over shoulders, russet sashes tied at waists, turmeric yellow and teal green accents woven into hems and knots. Everything looks practical, made to last, designed for a life where comfort and usefulness are the same thing. No one speaks, no one performs. Their attention is turned upward, and you follow it as naturally as you follow a fire when you're finally safe. The Milky Way brightens as your eyes adjust, and you begin to notice details you would miss in a city. The fine dust of stars around the brighter band, the darker channels cutting through it, the way the whole sky feels layered, not flat. Tall grass frames the clearing, each blade a thin black line, swaying slowly as if bowing to the night. You realize you're being guided already, not by instructions, but by their shared focus. Their breathing is slow, synchronized without effort, and your own breath begins to match. It's the simplest kind of teaching. Stay still long enough, and the world comes to you. Stay quiet long enough, and you can hear your own thoughts soften. The lamp continues its quiet work, keeping warmth near the center. The woven basket waits beside it, ready to offer whatever comfort it was packed to hold. The tribe watches the Milky Way as if it is both beauty and memory, both map and medicine. And you, tired, human, and finally allowed to be unimpressive, let your shoulders drop one more inch, let your jaw unclench, and settle into this circle under the Milky Way as if you've always belonged here. You stay seated long enough for the night to stop feeling like an event and start feeling like a home. The grass keeps whispering at the edge of the clearing, and the tribe's circle holds its shape with the quiet competence of people who have done this 1,000 times without ever needing to call it a tradition out loud. The brass oil lamp continues to glow in steady pulses, and the woven reed basket sits beside it like a patient helper that doesn't interrupt. Your eyes adjust further, and the sky becomes richer. The Milky Way isn't just a pale band now. It's textured, layered, almost three-dimensional. Dense star clouds like silt in a bright river, darker lanes like deep water where light seems to sink. You notice how the tribe's heads tilt, not randomly, but in small, shared shifts as if they're following a familiar current overhead. You try to do what you usually do when you enter a group: scan for rules, figure out how to fit, prepare to be appropriate. Your mind starts drafting little scripts: smile, nod, be interesting, be grateful, don't be weird. And then, almost immediately, the atmosphere makes those scripts feel ridiculous. Nobody here is asking you to be charming. The night isn't hiring. The sky isn't impressed by your resume. So you learn the first lesson without being told. You can simply be present. The tribe's quiet is not empty. It is structured like a woven pattern. You begin to notice the small motions that keep the circle comfortable: a shift of weight so a knee doesn't cramp, a hand brushing sand away from a sitting spot, a shoulder turning slightly to block a gust of wind from the lamp's flame. Someone adjusts a fold of indigo cloth over another person's back with the same calm care you'd use to tuck a blanket around a child who's half asleep. The gesture is quick, practical, and affectionate without making a show of it. The lamp's flame flickers once as the wind tries to test it. A hand moves, not hurried, and tilts the shield a little closer. The flame steadies again, obedient to the new angle. You find yourself oddly moved by that, by the fact that the night can be managed without panic, that small problems can be handled like small problems. You breathe in. The air is cooler now, and it carries layers. Dried grass, faint smoke, a mineral scent from the earth, and something herbal that seems to drift from the basket. The smell makes you think of crushed leaves rubbed between palms, the kind of scent that says, "We know what the land can do, and we use it gently." The tribe watches the Milky Way with a kind of softness that is hard to explain to someone who lives under streetlights. Their faces are turned upward, but their attention is not strained. It's restful. They aren't hunting for meaning like it's a scavenger hunt. They're letting meaning come to them the way dew comes to grass, quietly, patiently, without needing applause. You try to copy them. You let your gaze rest on the brightest part of the Star River. At first, your thoughts keep pushing in. Lists, worries, unfinished conversations, the weird thing you said that one time in 2017. Then the sky does what it always does. It outlasts you. The stars do not argue with your thoughts. They simply remain. Your mind, faced with that steady presence, starts to quiet out of sheer embarrassment. You become aware of sound again, not the sharp sounds of a city, but the soft, layered soundtrack of open land. Insects ticking like tiny clocks, wind combing through stalks, a distant call that might be an animal or might be the land settling into itself. The tribe's breathing joins it, and you feel your own breath slow, deeper in the belly, less anxious in the chest. At some point, someone shifts close enough to the woven reed basket and lifts it slightly, checking its weight. The basket gives a faint creak of reeds under strain, then settles again. A folded cloth is drawn out, turmeric yellow, warm in the lamplight, and placed nearby like an offered comfort. No words, no ceremony, just the assumption that bodies get cold at night and that kindness can be silent. You pull the cloth over your lap. It is rougher than modern fabric, but it holds warmth well. The texture against your skin makes you feel real, anchored, not floating in the usual mental fog. You glance down at the brass oil lamp and notice the way its metal catches light, subtle shell gold highlights that shimmer when the flame moves. The lamp is old, not ornamental, and yet beautiful because it has a job and does it well. That becomes the second lesson, also delivered without speech. Useful things are allowed to be beautiful. You watch how the tribe sits, spines not rigid but lifted as if the body is a vessel that should be treated with respect, feet tucked in ways that conserve warmth, hands resting open, not clenched. You try it. You loosen your fingers. You let your tongue rest in your mouth instead of pressing to the roof like it's bracing for impact. You stop holding your breath between thoughts. The night rewards you immediately with a deeper sense of ease. Time becomes different here. Minutes stop being units of productivity and start being a slow drift of sensation. Warmth from the ground, coolness on your cheeks, the steady pull of your gaze upward. The Milky Way moves almost imperceptibly, but you feel its motion in the same way you feel a boat drifting, not by watching the water, but by sensing the shift inside your own body. The tribe's quiet makes you aware of your own noise, internal noise, the constant commentary. You notice it, and instead of wrestling with it, you let it pass like wind through grass. Worry rises, then thins. A memory pokes at you, then slips away. The night doesn't demand that you solve yourself. It simply holds you while you settle. Eventually, the circle subtly changes shape, not dramatically, just enough to signal the night is continuing into another phase. A couple of people lean in toward the lamp and adjust the fuel with careful hands. The flame brightens slightly, then steadies again. Someone reaches into the basket and withdraws a small bundle of dried herbs, crumbles a pinch between fingers, and tosses it near the lamp's base where the warmth can lift the scent. The air grows a little sweeter, a little cleaner, and you realize it's not just comfort, it's practical. It softens the bite of insects. It calms the body. Another lesson: peace is often engineered. You follow their gaze again to the Milky Way, now bright enough that you can see the contrast between star-rich and star-poor regions. The tribe's attention seems to travel along that river, and you find yourself traveling with them, your eyes moving slowly, your thoughts moving even slower. It feels like being guided down a path without being pushed, like being walked home by people who don't need to ask where you live because the sky is the same for all of you. And as the night deepens, you understand what they are giving you. Not information, not entertainment, but a method, a way of being quiet without being lonely, a way of watching the vastness without feeling small in a frightening way, a way of letting the Milky Way be a ceiling, not a test. You breathe. The grass whispers. The lamp glows. The basket waits. The tribe watches the star river as if it has always been enough. And you, slowly, begin to believe that for tonight, it can be enough for you too. You keep watching until watching turns into something softer than attention and heavier than thought. The Milky Way holds its pale river course overhead, and the tribe's calm shapes your breathing the way a shoreline shapes water. Your eyelids stop negotiating. They close with the quiet confidence of a door that knows it is safe to latch. Sleep arrives without drama. It comes like tall grass settling after wind, slow, patient, inevitable. You still register the brass oil lamp as a warm pulse in the dark, and you still sense the woven reed basket near it, waiting like a faithful tool. Then even those details dissolve, and you rest. Morning finds you gently. Light seeps through grass in pale layers, and cool air carries earth scent and a thin remnant of smoke. You wake to movement, feet in dry stalks, hands brushing dew, birds testing the day. The circle has loosened. People rise, stretch, and begin the day as if work is simply the next calm thing. The brass oil lamp still sits near the center, dimmed and sheltered. The woven basket rests beside it with folded cloth tucked inside. You stand and follow as the tribe flows outward into tall grass. No one announces what happens next. The day begins the way breathing begins, quietly, automatically. Gathering comes first. Hands move with practiced economy. Reach, pinch, test, cut, bundle. Not everything is taken. Some stalks are left to seed, to hold the land's balance. You copy the motions and learn that gentleness is faster than force. When you grip too hard, fibers bruise. When you move lightly, stems come clean. A few people head toward a lower patch where the ground darkens and the air cools. Reeds grow there, long, flexible, strong. Your feet sink slightly into damp soil. Reeds are chosen by feel as much as sight, tested with a bend that tells you whether they'll weave or snap. Bundles are tied with bright fiber loops and carried back like quiet trophies. Preparation follows. Reeds are laid out in neat lines. Some are split lengthwise, then split again, the motion clean and controlled. You expect weaving to be complicated in an obvious way. Instead, it's complicated like good habits, small, correct choices repeated until the body remembers. You sit in shade, and the older woven reed basket becomes your silent teacher. You study its tight base, the ribs rising like a gentle cage, the over-under pattern locking everything together. You take split reeds and start. Your first attempts are, politely, chaos. Fibers twist, spacing goes uneven. You pinch too hard, and the reed complains in your fingertips. Then you watch the hands beside you. A strand is dampened briefly to soften it. Tension stays consistent. Corners are eased into shape rather than forced. You try again, slower. You breathe. You let the pattern lead instead of your impatience. A base forms. It is small and slightly lopsided, but it exists, and something in you relaxes at the sight of it, because it's proof you can still make real things, not just carry worries. Nearby, the brass oil lamp is tended in daylight, looking less mystical and more truthful. Soot marks, tiny scratches, the kind of wear that says it has been useful. The lamp is opened. The wick is examined and trimmed. Oil, pressed from seeds gathered from these same grasses, is poured in a controlled stream. The scent is faintly nutty and warm. The wick is set carefully so it will catch cleanly at night. Food work runs alongside craft. Leaves are sorted, seeds shaken into shallow trays, roots brushed clean with dry grass. You're given a simple task, crushing seeds with a smooth stone on a flat surface. Press, roll, lift. Press, roll, lift. The seeds break down into coarse meal. Your arms feel the effort, but it's a clean ache, steady and honest. The meal is mixed with water into a thick paste and formed into small cakes to be cooked later on heated stone. You start noticing how the tribe shares labor without fuss. People drift between tasks as needed, carrying reeds to shade, bringing water in a simple container, sweeping chaff away with a bundle of grass. No one hoards the important jobs. No one assigns themselves the role of hero. Even when your small basket base starts to wobble, a hand steadies the ribs for a moment, then releases, letting you learn without being shamed. The work feels communal in the most practical sense. Everyone's comfort depends on everyone's steadiness, and steadiness depends on no one being left behind. As the sun climbs, the grasslands brighten. Shadows pool cool at the bases of stems. Earth shows through where paths have been worn by many feet. Cloth flutters as people move, and the whole scene feels like a living weave, materials, hands, and time interlacing without strain. Your small woven base sits beside you, imperfect but real. The lamp gleams softly, newly cared for, ready to guard the night again. The older basket waits nearby, already being filled with sorted reeds and a folded cloth bundle. And you feel a quiet pride, not the loud kind that needs witnesses, but the calm kind that tells your tired mind, steady hands can teach you how to rest. You carry the calm ache of honest work with you as the afternoon leans toward evening. The grasslands change character when the sun begins to descend. Teal deepens near the roots. Turmeric yellow flashes on seed heads, and russet shadows pool in shallow hollows. Even your indigo cloak, still dusted with reed fiber, seems to drink in the cooling air. Your russet sash sits snug at your waist, a small anchor that reminds you are here, not back inside your day. No one announces that night is coming. The tribe simply begins preparing for it the way a body prepares for sleep. Quiet adjustments, small decisions, no drama. Tools are gathered and returned. Reed bundles are moved under cover. Water is checked and set where it can be reached without fumbling later. The woven reed basket that taught you patience earlier is lifted again and used like a roaming pantry of comfort. A folded cloth for knees, a pinch of dried herbs for smoke, and dry tinder for the first catch of flame. You follow the flow back to the shallow rise where the ground is pressed flat by countless evenings. The circle's space is rebuilt each day. Sitting places smoothed, ridges leveled, stray stalks brushed away so ankles won't be poked into alertness. A bundled sweep of grass is dragged across the soil, whispering it into neatness. A few stones are placed in a loose ring, not a fence, more like a suggestion to the night where warmth will live. You help clear a patch near the center, pressing soil with your palm until it feels firm and welcoming. Fire care begins with conditions, not bravado. Dry fuel is selected from what has been kept safe from damp, thin stems for a quick catch, and thicker pieces for steady heat. Nothing is packed tight, nothing is smothered. You build a loose nest of tinder, leaving small tunnels for airflow, and shape a shallow ring to cradle heat and keep embers from wandering into the grass. The wind is tested with a simple gesture, feeling where coolness leans across your skin. The tribe doesn't fight wind, they plan for it. The circle subtly turns so the breeze will carry smoke away from faces and toward the perimeter where insects hover like tiny, hopeful thieves. Watching that competence loosens something in you. Problems are handled while they are still small, before they grow teeth in your imagination. The brass oil lamp is brought forward as the sun lowers, its metal catching the last light in soft shell gold hints. Careful hands check the wick again, because the night's comfort depends on maintenance no one is tempted to skip. The rim is wiped clean so oil won't seep and smoke. The lamp is set slightly downwind and sheltered behind a low screen of bark and stones. A small adjustment to its shield changes everything. The future flame will glow without being bullied, and the light will stay warm instead of harsh. As dusk thickens, the air changes. Insects arrive as if summoned by warmth and the promise of exposed skin. You feel them testing the edges of your patience, tiny and persistent, the way intrusive thoughts show up the moment you try to relax. The tribe responds with calm practicality. Dried herbs are crumbled between fingertips and sprinkled near the fire ring where heat can lift their scent. The aroma rises, bittersweet, green and resinous, like crushed leaves warmed on bark, and it settles in your chest as if your body recognizes it as safe. You add another pinch and guide the first curl of smoke toward the outer edge with a slow sweep of your hand. The smoke moves like a soft curtain. Insects drift away without protest. You think of modern sprays and electric zappers and the desperate slap dance people do at outdoor dinners, and you feel a quiet gratitude for a method that asks you to breathe, not panic. The sunset finishes behind the grass in long, melting steps. The horizon fades from russet to indigo. The first stars appear, cautious at first, then confident. Small comforts arrive in the circle. Folded cloth for knees, a rolled reed mat, a smooth stone warmed earlier and now wrapped to keep heat close. The basket travels from hand to hand, offering what's needed without ceremony. You begin to see it as organized kindness, the kind that prevents discomfort from becoming a distraction. One last task remains before darkness settles fully, a low windbreak where gusts sometimes strike. Bark slabs and stones are placed in a staggered line, leaving gaps so air can pass without becoming a bully. The brass lamp sits behind it, protected. The fire ring looks like a promise. Warmth will be here, and it will behave. When the sun finally drops, motions become even quieter. The world narrows to small sounds, reeds creaking, stones tapping, grass moving in long, sleepy waves. The lamp's flame is brought to life with practiced care. It blooms and steadies, a warm point in the widening dark. Its light touches turmeric cloth and teal weave, kisses the edges of your indigo cloak, and makes the russet sash at your waist glow like ember. You settle into the circle again, prepared, ground smoothed, wind managed, scent lifted, insects politely persuaded to mind their business. Above, the Milky Way begins to show, faint at first, then brighter, and you feel the evening assemble itself around you the way a blanket settles, not abruptly, not loudly, but with a steady, undeniable kindness that makes you softer without asking permission. You sit long enough for the lamp's warm pulse to feel like a heartbeat you can borrow. The smoke from the herbs lifts and thins at the edge of the circle, and the insects, those tiny auditors of your comfort, finally decide there are easier places to bother. Overhead, the Milky Way brightens into that pale, textured band, and you realize the tribe isn't simply admiring it, they're reading it. You've spent most of your life treating the night sky like background decor. Pretty, sure, but fundamentally useless unless you're posting it with a caption that says, "Needed this." Here, the sky is infrastructure. It is a map, a calendar, a memory palace, and a way to keep your feet moving in the right direction when the grassland looks identical in every direction. No battery, no signal, no melodramatic low power mode, just knowledge held in bodies and passed along like warmth. A person near you shifts and extends an arm, not a dramatic point, more like a gentle line drawn into the air. Their finger traces the Milky Way's brighter curve, then drops to the horizon, then rises again to a cluster of stars that looks like spilled salt. The gesture is slow, patient, designed to teach without rushing your eyes. You follow the line with your gaze and feel the strange pleasure of recognition forming. Not recognition of a specific modern constellation name, this isn't a quiz, but recognition of pattern. The way you recognize a friend's silhouette, the way you recognize the path to your kitchen in the dark. They make the sky feel close. Another hand reaches into the woven reed basket and pulls out a few smooth stones, the ones that catch shell gold highlights in the lamp's glow. The stones are placed on the ground near the fire ring, not randomly, but with clear intention. One stone becomes an anchor. Two smaller ones set a line. A third marks a shift in direction. The whole arrangement is small, simple, and oddly powerful. The sky translated into something the hands can hold. You lean in, letting your indigo cloak fall around you like a quiet curtain. Your russet sash presses gently at your waist as you fold forward, grounding you. The lamplight flickers across the stones, and the tribe's fingers make tiny adjustments as if correcting a drawing. They nudge one stone closer to another, then pause, looking upward to confirm. Up to the Milky Way, down to the stones, up again, down again, a loop of attention, a practiced rhythm. You begin to understand that the Milky Way itself is not just stars everywhere. It has structure. It thickens in places, thins in others, and forms a long curve that can be used as a reference the way you use a river in daylight. The tribe's gestures keep returning to the same bright stretch, the same darker lane cutting through it like deep water. Those features are stable enough to guide and familiar enough to comfort. Your gaze follows their teaching, from the star river to a distinct cluster, from that cluster to a lone bright point, from that bright point to the angle it makes with the horizon. Slowly, the sky stops being a ceiling and becomes a terrain. You are no longer just looking at it, you are orienting yourself within it. The tribe shows you, without a single spoken word, that direction can be learned as a feeling. They mark a line in the dust with the side of a hand, then tap the end of it, then glance toward the horizon where the grasslands stretch into darkness. You picture the way a traveler would move across this open land. No mountains, no street signs, just tall grass and wind. In that world, the sky becomes your most reliable landmark. They also show you something subtler: time. One person scoops a little ash from near the fire ring and draws a faint arc on the ground. Another traces a second arc, slightly offset. The arcs are not decorative, they are a record of where the Milky Way sits at different times of year, how it leans and rises, how it changes its angle as seasons turn. You realize with a kind of sleepy awe that the tribe holds the year in their minds the way you hold a familiar song. They don't need a page to tell them what month it is. The sky tells them if they listen. You imagine them moving camp when certain stars arrive earlier in the evening, or when the Star River arches a certain way over the grass. You imagine them knowing when to gather reeds because a particular cluster appears just after dusk, or when to watch for rain because the air changes and the night sky looks sharper, more brittle. It is not superstition, it is observation, repeated across generations, refined into quiet certainty. The Milky Way becomes a route for memory, too. You watch a person place a stone, pause, and then make a slow, sweeping motion outward, as if pointing along an invisible path. Their hand returns to their chest briefly, an intimate, grounding gesture, then back to the stones. You get it. The route is not only across land, it is through life. Certain star positions correspond to certain stories, certain lessons, certain people who once walked these grasses. The sky becomes a way to keep the past from drifting away. And oddly, it makes your own memories feel less sharp, not erased, just softened. The things you've been carrying all day, the petty stress, the looping anxieties, start to seem smaller under the system you didn't invent. The tribe's way of mapping doesn't just get them from one place to another place, it gets them from one season of hardship to another season of ease, from one generation to the next, without losing the thread. You think of your own tools, calendars that ping you, maps that talk at you, reminders that shame you. Here, the sky never nags, it simply is. It offers its patterns to anyone patient enough to learn them. There is something almost insulting about how calm it is, like the universe is saying gently that you could have been resting this whole time. The tribe continues the lesson with the quiet insistence of repetition. Up to the Milky Way, down to the stones. A finger traces a bright stretch again, a stone shifts a fraction, a line in the dust is smoothed and redrawn. You watch until the pattern imprints itself behind your eyes, and then for a moment you feel what they feel, the sense that you could stand up in darkness, walk into tall grass, and still know where you are because the Star River is above you, flowing steadily, holding a route for anyone willing to remember. You keep your gaze on the Star River until it feels like it has printed itself on the inside of your eyelids, and then, because your body is human and not a telescope, you notice the quiet motion at the edge of the circle. The children are there, not banished to a separate corner, not treated like a disturbance, but folded into the tribe's night, the same way the brass oil lamp is folded into darkness, protected, practical, calmly included. They move like small animals in tall grass, quick, soft, alert. Turmeric yellow cloth flashes at a shoulder. Teal green threads catch the lamp's glow. Then they settle again. Even their fidgeting has discipline, as if they learned the night listens back. Some sit cross-legged with open hands on their knees, copying the adults without strain. Others crouch where smoke thins, gathering tiny reed offcuts and seed husks, sorting them by feel. The tribe is teaching them something most adults misplace somewhere between notifications: how to pay attention without turning it into a struggle. One child holds a thin stalk of grass upright and waits for a gust. When the breeze arrives, the stalk bends, and the child's wrist softens with it, letting the grass move without snapping. The lesson is small but exact. Force breaks. Timing yields. Another child balances smooth stone, borrowed from the woven reed basket, on a flat palm, and takes 3 careful steps, then stops, then breathes. Steadiness in the body first, steadiness in the mind after. Your indigo cloak rests around your shoulders like a quiet tent. Your russet sash presses lightly at your waist, a reminder that you belong to gravity, not to spiraling thoughts. The lamp breathes warm light, catching shell gold highlights on its metal and giving the children's faces a soft glow. They glance at you once or twice, curious, not wary, then return to their tasks as if you're simply another part of the evening landscape. A game begins so subtly you nearly miss it. A few children spread near the tall grass, half in shadow, half in lamplight. One draws a faint line in the dust with a toe. Another follows that line with eyes only and places a pebble down as if pinning a location. A third looks up to the Milky Way, then down to the pebble, then up again, and makes a tiny adjustment. Up, down, confirm, correct. The rhythm is the rules. The adults don't interrupt. They watch with the calm trust of people who know learning is supposed to wobble a little. The children are building the sky on the ground, rehearsing the same pattern you've just been shown, but in the language that suits them. Movement, repetition, play. You understand why the tribe's knowledge stays strong. It isn't stored in one person like a fragile file. It's refreshed each evening in many hands. Near the lamp, another exercise forms. A child takes a pinch of the dried herbs used earlier, those quiet allies against insects, and rubs them between fingers. The scent rises, green and resinous. The child waits. When the breeze shifts, the scent drifts to one side, and the child turns the head slightly to track it. Wind reading without gadgets, direction learned through skin and nose. Then comes the bravest lesson, delivered with such gentleness it hardly looks like bravery. One child stands at the edge of the circle where tall grass begins to swallow light. Shadows there are thicker, stems higher, the unknown more convincing. The child holds a short reed bundle like a small baton and waits. No one pushes, no one teases. The tribe simply makes space and stays steady. The child steps into the grass for 2 slow breaths, then steps back out. Nothing dramatic happens, which is exactly the point. The dark is not a monster. It is simply a place without lamplight. The child repeats it once, 2 breaths in, 2 breaths out, and you feel your own chest loosen because you recognize the pattern you've been missing. Step into uncertainty, breathe, return. Repeat until your nervous system stops writing horror stories. The children rotate through smaller tasks as the night deepens. One practices reed tension by weaving a single loop and unweaving it again until the fingers remember just enough. Another sits still and listens, eyes lifted, tracking the slow gap between a lamp flicker and the grass's next whisper. The work looks quiet, but it trains something sturdy. You catch yourself mirroring them, your movement slow, your gaze softens. You notice the wind's arrival before it touches your cheeks. You let your attention rest on small things, the creak of the woven basket, the warm pulse of lamplight, the sway of grass, until your mind stops reaching for louder stimulation. A child returns to the stones that map the sky and nudges one a fraction, then sits back and looks up to check. The gesture is careful, respectful. It isn't vandalism, it's learning. You see the tribe's continuity in that tiny motion, knowledge held lightly, adjusted with humility, offered forward. One by one, the children settle closer to the adults, energy spent in quiet practice rather than loud exhaustion. Their faces tip towards the Milky Way, as if the star river can't be folded into a blanket, but can still be trusted. And you, wrapped in indigo, tied in russet, surrounded by turmeric and teal, take the simplest bedtime lesson into your bones. Attention doesn't have to be sharp to be true. It can be gentle. It can be playful. It can be the way you come home to yourself, under a sky that has guided tired humans patiently long before you were tired. You stay in that softened state, where attention feels like a warm hand instead of a clenched fist. The children's breathing turns slow and even, and the tribe's circle holds steady in the lamp's glow. Tall grass whispers at the edge of the clearing. Above, the Milky Way keeps flowing, a pale river that never checks your to-do list. The woven reed basket creaks as it's pulled closer to the brass oil lamp. Hands reach inside, not for food or fuel, but for something that feels strangely intimate. A coil of cord, wound neat and flat. It looks almost too plain to matter. Of course it matters. Important things rarely come with a marketing department. The cord is laid across the packed earth, anchored by a couple of smooth stones that catch shell gold highlights when the flame flickers. Beside it, two narrow threads appear, teal and turmeric, like small flags of color. Fingers begin to move along the cord, measuring by feel, then tying knots with slow, identical tension. A knot, a small gap, another knot, a cluster of three, a longer stretch left clean, then a single knot placed alone, like a star set apart from the densest part of the sky. No one explains. The structure explains itself. This is time made touchable. You've grown up with time yelling at you, buzzing, chiming, lighting up your pocket like a needy pet. This cord does the opposite. It waits. It keeps record without urgency. Each knot becomes a marker, each gap a distance between markers. The pattern holds repeating cycles and singular moments in the same calm material, as if the tribe refuses to treat life like an emergency just because it passes. A hand gestures toward your russet sash. You loosen it and let it slide through your fingers. The weave is warm, slightly rough, strong enough to hold a waist, soft enough to hold a memory. The sash is laid beside the cord, compared by touch, then folded into a short length. A simple knot is tied near one end, firm, not cruel. Another knot follows, a little farther along. Two knots close together. A longer gap. One knot alone. Your sash, for a moment, stops being clothing and becomes a story. You feel the odd tenderness of it. You can imagine how, in the future, you could run a thumb along these ridges and remember. This was the night the Milky Way felt close enough to drink. This was the day you learned reeds split clean when you stopped fighting them. This was the evening smoke kept the insects away and your shoulders finally dropped. The cord doesn't capture the whole event. It captures enough, like a scent caught in cloth. The teal thread is looped through one knot and tucked tight, leaving a small colored tail. Turmeric thread marks another. Teal again. Turmeric again. Not decoration. Coding. Even in dim light, fingers and eyes can find the right places. You notice how everything here respects the night. No frantic rummaging, no bright glare, no sudden noise. Even memory is stored gently. The brass oil lamp offers one more tool, a thin split reed, ends shaved smooth. It becomes a pointer, slipped under a section of cord to lift it without disturbing the rest. A stone shifts one notch each time a knot is touched, counting without numbers, tracking without pressure. Touch, move, touch, move. The method is so simple it almost feels insulting, like the universe is teasing you for making organization so complicated. You take a short length of cord for yourself and begin to tie. Your first knot is too tight, the fibers complaining in your fingertips. The next is too loose, sliding like a thought you can't hold. You breathe and try again, letting steadiness, not force, do the work. A better knot forms, then another. Soon you have 3 consistent knots and a clean gap between them, and the satisfaction is embarrassingly real. Your body loves this, repetition with meaning, effort that doesn't demand a screen. You glance up to the Milky Way and back down to your cord, and the connection settles in. The sky is the constant reference. The cord is the portable memory of how the sky and the seasons line up with life on the ground. This is how a tribe keeps continuity without books, without clocks, without pretending the past is disposable. The brass oil lamp flutters once. A hand tilts its shield, and the flame steadies again, obedient and calm. The herbal smoke lingers faintly, clean at the back of your throat. Tall grass sighs at the edge of the clearing, as if approving of humans who keep records without turning it into a panic. Your cord rests in your lap. You run your fingertips over the knots, feeling their tiny differences, realizing you could read them in darkness. You could carry them through grass and rain. You could warm them against your skin and let them remind you, quietly, reliably, that you have moved through time before and you can do it again. You let the cord settle. The tribe eases back into stillness. The lamp continues to glow. The Star River continues to flow, and your breathing deepens, slow and even, as if your body has finally found a way to keep time that feels like kindness. You keep the cord in your lap, fingers resting on the knots as if they're small stepping stones across a river you don't have to cross tonight. Around you, the tribe's circle grows quieter still, the way a room quiets when everyone agrees, without saying it, that something gentle is about to happen. The brass oil lamp sits steady behind its small windbreak, casting warm light that doesn't glare. The woven reed basket is drawn a little closer, and you see it isn't just storage, it's a moving altar of practical comfort. Herbs, cloth, stones, cord, and small tools. Everything needed for night, for memory, for calm. A person near the lamp reaches into the basket and withdraws a bundle wrapped in turmeric yellow cloth. The cloth unfolds with soft, dry whispers. Inside are small objects, smooth stones, a coil of reed, a pinch of crushed herb, and a thin strip of teal thread. Nothing valuable in the modern sense, everything valuable in the human sense. The tribe begins a rite that is almost indistinguishable from ordinary life, which is exactly why it works. It doesn't demand that the night becomes sacred with fireworks. It simply treats what already exists, grass, flame, breath, sky, as worthy of attention. You watch as a few stones are warmed near the fire ring, then lifted carefully and set in a small arc on the ground, catching the lamp's shell gold highlights. A reed coil is placed beside them like a boundary that says, "Here is the space we keep gentle." A pinch of herb is crumbled and touched to the rim of the brass oil lamp, not to alter it, but to honor it. The scent rises, green, resinous, faintly bitter, and the air feels cleaner, softer, as if the night itself inhales. Then the movement shifts to the Milky Way. Heads tilt upward, hands briefly lift, not in praise, not in pleading, more like the body's instinct to reach toward what steadies it. The Star River above looks even brighter now, a pale band with dense swirls and dark lanes that feel like deep water. Tall grass frames it in thin, swaying lines. The whole sky is a vaulted, living map. You follow the tribe's pace. Your breathing slows until it feels like the lamp's flame, steady, sheltered, not trying to be dramatic. You let your shoulders drop and your indigo cloak settles around you. Your russet sash presses gently at your waist, grounding you. The earth beneath you is cool now, but it holds a faint leftover warmth that makes sitting feel like being held. A person slides a small warmed stone toward you. The stone radiates quiet heat. You take it into your palms and feel the warmth seep into your fingers, then into your wrists. It's a small comfort, but in the night, small comforts are giant. You realize the tribe is building sleep on purpose. Warmth for the body, scent for the mind, steadiness for the breath. The teal thread appears again. It is looped around a reed coil, then around a stone, then around a second stone, forming a simple line that doesn't bind tightly, more like a connection than a constraint. You interpret it as gratitude made visible, linking resources to the people who use them, linking the lamp's flame to the grass's shelter, linking the stone's warmth to the sky's vastness. Your mind tries to name it, categorize it, ritual, ceremony, tradition, and the labeling feels clumsy. This is not something performed for an audience. This is something performed for the nervous system, a way to tell the body you are safe enough to soften, a way to tell the community we are still here, still together, still oriented under the same sky. The circle becomes even more still. You notice your own heart slowing, your thoughts thinning at the edges. The Milky Way seems to widen, as if the sky is making room for you. And in that quiet, a small, almost silly tenderness rises, the realization that humans have been doing this, finding comfort under stars, using firelight and scent and shared stillness to soothe themselves for longer than any of your modern anxieties have existed. A breeze moves through the grass, and the stalks hiss softly. The brass lamp's flame flickers, then steadies, protected by its shield. Someone adjusts the herb near the lamp's base, letting the warmth lift the scent again. Your hands cradle the warmed stone. Your breathing matches the tribe's pace, and the whole scene feels like a lullaby without lyrics. A final small gesture seals the rite. The cord you practiced earlier is lifted briefly and laid near the stones, as if time itself is being tucked into the circle so it can rest. The knots catch the light in tiny highlights. Then the cord is returned to the basket, memory stored, not clutched. You lift your gaze again to the Milky Way and let it be both map and medicine. You feel the tribe's quiet gratitude not as an idea, but as a physical shift, your jaws unclenching, your shoulders loosening, your breath deepening. In this moment, the night is not something to endure, it is something to enter. And you enter it fully, held by tall grass, warmed by stone and lamp, guided by a river of stars overhead, until the right fades naturally into stillness, and stillness becomes the kind of peace that makes sleep feel less like collapse and more like a gentle landing. You let the quiet settle deeper, the way a blanket finds the edges of your shoulders without being asked. The warmed stone in your palms cools, but it still leaves a faint memory of heat in your fingers. The cord has been returned to the woven reed basket. The brass oil lamp glows behind its small windbreak. The tribe sits in a shared stillness that feels less like a pose and more like a practiced kindness. Then the air changes. It is subtle at first, just a thinness sliding in under the herbal scent. Your nose notices it before your mind does. The smoke that had been rising in a lazy ribbon begins to flatten, pushed sideways. At the edge of the clearing, the tall grass stops swaying as one soft body and starts moving in uneven patches, some stalks bowing, others stiffening, as if the wind is testing angles. You lift your gaze to the Milky Way, expecting the Star River to be the reliable anchor it has been all night. It is still there, bright and layered, but the darkness around it feels a little more alert. A faint haze gathers in one region of sky, thin enough to ignore, yet the tribe does not ignore it. You feel it in them first, a shift of posture. A hand that had been resting open now curls slightly, not in fear but in readiness. Someone leans toward the lamp and checks the shield, then settles back, eyes up again. Another person draws the woven basket a touch closer, the way you move a glass of water nearer to bed without making a speech about it. The wind arrives again, stronger. It combs through the tall grass with a sharper sound, less whisper and more hiss. The lamp's flame tugs sideways, and the windbreak holds it steady. The herbal aroma thins as the breeze disperses it, and a few insects drift back in, encouraged by the shifting air. Your shoulders want to tighten. You notice the reflex and soften it. You breathe slower, letting the tribe's calm teach your body what to do. Out on the horizon, the dark gains texture. Low, uneven shapes gather far off. Clouds, maybe, or just thicker night. The grassland is a broad, open face, and the sky is its expression. Tonight's expression is shifting. The tribe responds in the simplest way. They keep paying attention, and they make small moves early. A hand smooths the dust near the ark, clearing the ground as if resetting the page. Another person touches one of the warmed stones, gauging how fast it's cooling. Someone tightens the reed coil that marked the gentle space so it won't lift. A quiet tap adds an extra stone to the lamp's windbreak. The basket opens just enough for dried herbs to be ready if smoke needs renewing. Everything stays unhurried, but nothing is careless. You use the Milky Way as a measuring tool now, the way they taught you. A thin veil drifts across part of the Star River, softening contrast. The darker lanes lose sharpness, and you have to blink to refine the details. It isn't gone, it's simply harder to read, the way a familiar path becomes uncertain in mist. The wind comes in pulses, a gust, then a lull, a gust, then a lull. The tall grass echoes the pattern, flattening in a wave, then rising, then flattening again. Each gust carries a faint scent of dust, dry and mineral, pulled from somewhere beyond the clearing, as if the land is exhaling old heat. The children, still included, become quieter, movements smaller. They watch the adult's hands the way you watch a skilled person at work, learning that steadiness is not the absence of change, it is the ability to adjust without spilling yourself everywhere. A cooler thread of air slides across your forearms, and the temperature dips just enough for your skin to notice. Along with the dust, another scent arrives, dampness, distant and faint, carried in like a promise that the sky has plans. Cloud edges become visible, not as clear shapes, but as absences, patches where stars are dimmer, where the Milky Way loses detail. The Milky Way is still your guide, but it is also a signal. If the river becomes harder to read, you may need other anchors. Someone rises quietly and walks to the perimeter where tall grass meets open darkness, body angled into the wind, reading it with the whole body. They pause, then return with the same measured steps, carrying information in posture alone. The circle subtly shifts its attention, not in alarm, but in coordination. Your own body responds with old instincts: brace, anticipate, prepare for discomfort. But the tribe's steadiness holds you. The lamp keeps glowing. The basket stays close. The grass keeps moving, yes, but it is still only grass. The sky is shifting, yes, but it is still only weather, not a personal attack. You lengthen your exhale on purpose and keep your gaze soft on the Milky Way, accepting that even a star river can be briefly veiled. The night has offered you peace, and now it offers you the more useful gift, the chance to practice peace while conditions change. A final gust slides through, stronger than the others, and the lamp flame bows to it for a second, then steadies again behind its shield. The tribe shifts subtly, readying their next gentle move, and you feel the small problem take shape. Restless wind and uneasy clouds asking the circle to adapt without losing its calm. You feel the tribe decide before you see it. The circle's stillness doesn't break, it reorients. The restless wind has asked a question, and their answer is not panic, but motion. Small, organized, almost tender. Problems are handled while they're still polite. Hands go to the brass oil lamp first, because light is comfort, and comfort keeps the body from inventing emergencies. Someone turns the shield a few degrees so the flame leans inward instead of sideways. Another person adds a stone to the windbreak, not building a wall, just giving the wind one more reason to behave. The glow steadies and your shoulders loosen as if they were waiting for that signal. The woven reed basket is pulled in next. It shifts with a soft creak, reeds flexing, then settles. Its contents are checked by feel: cloth, cord, herbs, tinder, each item found without rummaging. A turmeric yellow cloth is folded thicker. The cord with knots is wound tight so it won't snag. A small herb bundle is tucked deeper. Everything says, we move smoothly, we keep calm. Another gust combs the tall grass and scatters the smoke. A couple of insects get brave and test your neck. You resist the urge to slap at yourself like you're defending a castle. You brush them away slowly because the tribe's steadiness is contagious and you're not interested in making the night louder. The ground becomes part of the decision. Fingers sweep across the dust near the fire ring, feeling how dry it is, how easily it lifts. Someone glances toward the perimeter where grass stands thickest and listens to the hiss of wind moving through it. Open clearing, gusty air, dry stalks, an equation nobody wants to finish the hard way. The tribe doesn't need a lecture, they shift. People rise in a quiet unfolding. Bodies standing, cloth settling, feet finding earth. Warmed stones are gathered and placed into the basket so heat can travel. The herb bundle comes too. The brass lamp is lifted carefully, kept upright, flame protected, as if it's a small animal you carry through darkness. You stand as well, indigo cloak sliding over your shoulders. Your russet sash tightens at your waist, grounding you. You notice the children first. They are guided without fuss. A hand rests lightly at a small shoulder for a moment, then releases. A rolled mat is passed along. A folded cloth is draped over a lap. Everything says, "You are safe. We are simply moving." The tribe leads you only a short distance, far enough that the wind sounds different. The grass parts and brushes your legs with cool stems. Ahead, the land dips slightly, and a line of low shrubs forms a natural shoulder against gusts. The wind arrives there broken, less sharp, as if it has to take smaller bites. They do not abandon the idea of the circle, they rebuild it. The new spot is a shallow hollow, open to the sky but protected on one side. The Milky Way is still visible, though thin haze drifts across it like gauze. You can still find the bright curve. The tribe accepts the veil the way you accept a new sleeping position. Adjust, breathe, continue. The fire ring is made smaller and lower. Stones are placed with care so embers can't roll. Dust is patted down, pressed, sealed. Someone clears a strip of bare earth around it. The brass lamp is set behind the shrubs where wind can't slap it. Its flame steadies and deepens, and the light pools warm and calm. You help by carrying a few flat stones and placing them at the edge of the sitting area, marking where bodies should settle so no one ends up half in grass where damp and insects can sneak in. Your hands move quietly. Your breath stays slow. The woven basket is set down again, its mouth facing inward like an open palm. A pinch of herbs is crumbled near the lamp's base, and the scent returns, thicker now because the shrubs hold it. Smoke drifts outward in a slow ribbon. The insects retreat again, disappointed. A child's rolled mat slips and starts to unravel in the grass. Before it becomes a story, a hand catches it, presses it, and re-rolls it with 2 calm turns. No scolding, no drama. The mat is secured with a simple loop of teal thread, and the child continues, dignity intact. The wind still comes, but it arrives tired, broken by shrubs and the curve of land. Tall grass still hisses, but farther away. The brass lamp still glows, sheltered and steady. The circle reforms, bodies settling, cloths arranged, knees tucked, shoulders dropping. And in the middle of this practical relocation, you realize the tribe's real skill isn't only knowing the sky. It's keeping the nervous system calm while the sky changes. It's moving without fear. It's treating adaptation as ordinary. You sit again on pressed earth, feel the lamp's warmth on your face, and let the night continue. Different, yes, but still gentle, because the people beside you know exactly how to keep the calm from spilling. You stay in that softened state, where attention feels like a warm hand instead of a clenched fist. The children's breathing turns slow and even, and the tribe's circle holds steady in the lamp's glow. Tall grass whispers at the edge of the clearing. Above, the Milky Way keeps flowing, a pale river that never checks your to-do list. The woven reed basket creaks as it's pulled closer to the brass oil lamp. Hands reach inside, not for food or fuel, but for something that feels strangely intimate. A coil of cord, wound neat and flat. It looks almost too plain to matter. Of course it matters. Important things rarely come with a marketing department. The cord is laid across the packed earth, anchored by a couple of smooth stones that catch shell gold highlights when the flame flickers. Beside it, two narrow threads appear, teal and turmeric, like small flags of color. Fingers begin to move along the cord, measuring by feel, then tying knots with slow, identical tension. A knot, a small gap, another knot, a cluster of three, a longer stretch left clean. Then a single knot placed alone, like a star set apart from the densest part of the sky. No one explains. The structure explains itself. This is time made touchable. You've grown up with time yelling at you, buzzing, chiming, lighting up your pocket like a needy pet. This cord does the opposite. It waits. It keeps record without urgency. Each knot becomes a marker, each gap a distance between markers. The pattern holds repeating cycles and singular moments in the same calm material, as if the tribe refuses to treat life like an emergency just because it passes. The circle settles into the new hollow as if it was always meant to be here. The shrubs take the edge off the wind, breaking gusts into tired little breaths that can't bully the lamp or the fire ring. The herbal scent lingers longer now, held close by the land's curve. You feel the difference immediately in your body. Your shoulders unclench without needing permission. Your jaw loosens. Your breathing falls into that slow, deep rhythm you only seem to earn after you've proven you're safe. Above, the Milky Way is still there, but it's no longer a crisp river you can trace with confidence. A thin veil drifts across parts of it, softening edges. The bright band dulls, then brightens again as the haze shifts. The darker lanes lose their sharpness and return in fragments. It's like trying to read a familiar map through fog, and your mind, always eager to dramatize, wants to whisper, "What if the sky disappears?" The tribe's response is almost amusing in its calm refusal to spiral. They don't chase the stars. They don't glare upward in frustration. They accept what the sky is offering tonight, and they use what remains. Hands reach into the woven reed basket and pull out the smooth stones again, those small, reliable anchors that catch shell gold highlights when lamplight touches them. The stones are placed on the ground in a smaller, tighter arrangement than before, like a pocket version of the sky that can survive imperfect visibility. One stone marks the general line of the Milky Way's curve. Another marks a star cluster that still punches through haze. A third marks the horizon. The pattern is simplified, but it holds. You watch the method. Look up for what's visible. Look down to translate it. Keep the shape even if details blur. It's the same way you recognize a friend from far away. Posture first, then features. Tonight, the tribe reads posture. The brass oil lamp glows beside you, steady now behind shrubs. Its flame is disciplined, sheltered, almost sleepy in its consistency. The light does not compete with the sky. It creates a warm foreground where hands can work and bodies can rest. The lamp's brass catches and releases light in soft pulses, and the tribe uses those pulses the way you might use a metronome, to keep movements calm and measured. When the haze thickens and the bright band of Milky Way fades in a patch, someone tilts their head slightly and shifts their gaze to where the star river was moments ago. The body remembers the river's position even when the eyes lose it. They keep that remembered curve on the ground with stones and dust lines, sustaining a reference that doesn't require constant visual proof. You try it. You look up, find a bright star cluster still visible through haze, then look down and place a pebble where it would belong in relation to the arc. You glance up again, confirm, and adjust the pebble a fraction. Your fingers move slowly, and you feel a strange, quiet pride as the pattern begins to make sense in your hands. The tribe adds reflection, as if the sky has sent a substitute teacher. A shallow bowl, simple, worn, practical, is brought forward and set on flat earth. Water is poured into it carefully from a container that has traveled with them. The surface stills. The lamp is moved slightly so its flame doesn't glare off the water. Then, when the eyes lift and the haze hides a section of stars, you notice something. The water holds what the air blurs. Dim points appear in the bowl. Not bright, not perfect, but present enough to reassure the nervous system that the sky hasn't vanished. It's just softened. You lean closer and see faint star specks trembling with the slightest breeze. The reflection makes the Milky Way feel doubled. One river overhead, one river below, both interrupted by ripples, both steady in their own way. The tribe watches the bowl not as a trick, but as an alternate way of seeing. It's practical, and it's also beautiful in that quiet way that makes your throat feel slightly tight. The children, now drowsier, gather around the bowl for a moment, eyes heavy, attention gentle. A small finger reaches towards a reflected point, stops just short of touching the water, and withdraws. An instinct to interact, disciplined by the same calm that governs everything here. The child's hand returns to lap, and the child leans into an adult's shoulder without fuss. The haze thickens again, and a few more stars vanish. The tribe doesn't lose the lesson. They shift from observation to memory and shared focus. The cord with knots appears briefly from the basket, not as a lecture, but as reassurance. Fingers run along it, touching markers that correspond to season and position. The cord is like a quiet whisper that says, the sky has patterns, and patterns return, even when tonight is blurry. The cord is wound back up and tucked away, memory stored, not clutched. You feel your mind relaxing into this approach. Instead of demanding perfect clarity, you accept partial information and let your body hold the rest. You realize how rarely you permit that in your daily life. You demand certainty, and when you can't get it, you spiral. Here, uncertainty is normal weather. You adapt, you simplify, you use reflection and memory, and keep your breathing slow. The Milky Way returns in patches as the haze shifts. A brighter band emerges, then softens again. The tribe remains steady, hands resting open, faces calm. The lamp continues to glow. The water in the bowl holds trembling star points. The tall grass hisses farther away, dulled by the hollow's curve. And you learn a quiet, generous truth. Even when the stars hide, the way of watching can remain. You can still be guided by what you remember, by what you can reflect, by what you can hold in your hands. The sky doesn't need to be perfect for you to feel held beneath it. Tonight, the tribe teaches you how to keep the Milky Way present, even when you can't see all of it, by carrying its shape inside your attention like a soft, reliable map. You keep trusting the patchwork sky, Star River appearing, softening, returning, until the night decides to remind you that even ancient patterns live inside weather. The haze that had been drifting like gauze begins to thicken into something heavier. It's not a dramatic wall of cloud, it's a slow, undeniable dimming, the way a room darkens when someone turns down the lamp without warning. The first sign arrives as temperature. The air cools with a clean snap that raises fine bumps along your forearms. The shrubs in the hollow stop merely softening wind and start catching it, their leaves shifting with a sharper, wetter sound. The tall grass beyond the hollow answers with a low, restless hiss. Your body registers the change before your mind maims it, and your mind, always eager to win the worst-case scenario award, tries to begin a small panic monologue. The tribe does not. They move the way they moved earlier, with the same quiet competence, problems handled while they are still polite. The brass oil lamp is shielded first. A hand cups the windbreak closer. Another adjusts the lamp's angle so the flame leans inward, protected from a sudden gust that tries to bully it. The woven reed basket is pulled closer as well, its mouth turned inward like an open palm that refuses to spill its contents to the night. Someone lifts the shallow water bowl they used for reflection and slides it farther from the lamp because the surface has begun to tremble. The trembling isn't just breeze now, it's the pressure shift that comes before rain, air thickening, smell changing. You notice it too, that mineral, wet earth scent rising as if the ground remembers water and is already preparing to receive it. The Milky Way fades, not entirely, not yet. It becomes thinner, more ghost than river, and then, between one slow breath and the next, large portions simply vanish behind thickening cloud. Stars wink out. The dark grows denser, not frightening because it is evil, but unsettling because it is unfamiliar. Your modern brain, trained to rely on constant light, resists the idea of darkness that actually wins. The tribe accepts it like adults. They compress the circle slightly, bodies drawing closer for shared warmth and coordinated movement. Cloths are redistributed without fuss. A turmeric yellow wrap is placed around small shoulders. A teal thread loop secures a rolled mat that might otherwise unfurl into damp soil. Hands remain open, steady, controlled. No one rushes. They simply do what needs doing. Then the rain arrives. At first it is a whisper, fine drops that barely register on skin, more felt as a cool stippling than seen. The lamp's flame tightens, reacting to the sudden moisture. Someone shifts a shield in front of it, and the flame steadies again, disciplined and stubborn. The smell of herbs that had been keeping insects away is swallowed by the first real scent of rain, wet grass, wet dust, the soft metallic tang of water hitting stone. The drops thicken quickly into a brief, serious shower. The hollow becomes a bowl of sound. Rain taps leaves and reeds and cloth, turning the night into 1,000 tiny fingers drumming in a patient rhythm. Tall grass beyond the hollow sways under the weight of water, stalks bowing and rising again, bowing and rising, like the land practicing sleep. The tribe responds with simple shelter, not structures, just smart use of what exists. Mats are angled. Cloth is lifted overhead in small arcs. Bodies tilt to share coverage. The woven reed basket is moved to the driest point, tucked close to a knee, protected by indigo fabric. The brass oil lamp is brought even nearer to the windbreak, its flame now a precious little heart that must be kept beating through rain and shifting air. You help without being asked, because at this point you're part of the circle's logic. You lean in, using your indigo cloak as a barrier to deflect the heaviest drops from the lamp. Your russet sash holds the cloak's weight in place. Your hands feel the lamp's warmth through the damp air and realize how much comfort can live inside something so small. The rain lasts only a short time, but it is intense enough to reset the night. When it finally eases, it doesn't stop cleanly. It thins into scattered drops, then into a soft mist that clings to grass and skin. The wind settles into quieter breaths again, exhausted. The clouds remain heavy and close, and the sky is now mostly dark velvet, with only a few stubborn stars pricking through. In the aftermath, the tribe begins the gentle restoration. Shake water from cloth, reseat mats, pat the ground where soil has softened, check the lamp's flame, renew a pinch of herbs to keep the damp from feeling too cold inside the chest. The circle resettles, slower now, as if everyone has collectively decided that the storm was an interruption, not a conclusion. And then you notice the absence. It's the kind of absence that first feels like a glitch in your own attention. You look toward the woven reed basket, expecting the coil of knotted cord, time made touchable, to be nestled where it always sits, safe among cloth and small tools. But the familiar shape isn't there. The mouth of the basket shows folded fabric, a couple of smooth stones, an herb bundle, tinder, yet the cord is missing, and with it the quiet reassurance of markers you can feel in the dark. You think briefly that maybe you're wrong, that the eyes are tired and the lamplight is dampened by mist. You shift closer, you tilt your head, you scan again. No cord, no small ridge of knots, no teal and turmeric tails, just empty space where it should be. Your stomach tightens in a small, childish way, not because the cord is expensive, but because it belongs to the tribe's continuity. It's not merely a tool, it's a living record. Losing it doesn't feel like misplacing an object. It feels like dropping a thread that holds many nights together. The tribe notices the absence too, not with panic, but with immediate, focused attention. Hands pause, eyes sweep the ground around the sitting area. Someone checks under a fold of cloth. Another lifts a mat edge. A stone is moved aside. The motion is quiet and coordinated, like the circle has practiced this kind of problem before. You help by following the obvious path the storm created. Rain and wind would have nudged things. Cloth might have dragged along the ground. A hurried adjustment during the downpour could have shifted the cord from basket to lap to earth without anyone realizing. You stand carefully and step to the edge of the hollow where shrubs meet tall grass. The grass is wet and heavy now, bending under droplets. Your legs brush against slick stalks, and water chills your skin in quick, honest flashes. The lamp's glow behind you is smaller here, the darkness thicker. You move slowly so you don't trample what you're trying to find, and you resist the urge to hurry, because hurrying is how things get lost twice. The tribe spreads in a gentle arc, not scattering, not shouting, just widening their search radius with calm intention. Some crouch low, hands parting grass, feeling for cord against damp earth. Others scan the boundary where water would have run in small channels, carrying light objects a short distance. The children are kept close, sheltered from the wet, watching with solemn focus, as if learning yet another lesson. Even in a storm, you do not panic, you search. You run your fingers along wet stems, feeling for anything that isn't plant or soil. You listen for the tiny sound of cord brushing reeds. You look for a faint teal or turmeric tail catching lamplight through mist. The night is darker now, the Milky Way mostly hidden, but the method remains. Slow attention, shared steadiness, one careful sweep at a time. And somewhere in the wet grass beyond the hollow, something that holds time has slipped away into darkness, waiting to be found by hands patient enough to keep searching without fear. You keep moving your hands through wet grass with the careful patience of someone searching for something that matters because it carries meaning, not because it costs money. The stems are slick and heavy, bending under droplets. Every brush against your legs leaves a cold stripe of water that wakes your skin up, but you don't let that turn into hurry. Hurrying is how you trample the very thing you're trying to save, and tonight is not the night for avoidable mistakes. Behind you, the brass oil lamp glows from the hollow, smaller now, sheltered by shrubs and stones. Its light is warm, but it doesn't reach far into the damp. It creates a soft boundary. Inside is calm and coordinated. Outside is wet grass and uncertain shadows. The tribe spreads in a gentle arc, not scattering, not turning the search into a frantic performance, just widening their attention like a slow opening fan. Someone parts grass low to the ground, fingers skimming the soil where rainwater might have pushed something along. Someone else checks the shallow channels where droplets still gather and slip away. The woven reed basket remains guarded near the lamp, mouth turned inward like a quiet promise that whatever is found will have a safe place to return. You search by sensation as much as sight. You learn quickly that wet cord doesn't always announce itself. It can lie flat against dark earth, heavy with water, refusing to gleam. The teal and turmeric threads that once made it easy to find now cling to stems, their colors muted by moisture. You begin to scan for shape instead, the faint curve of a coil, the straightness of fiber where nothing else grows straight. A small gust moves through, gentler than before, shaking droplets from grass tips. They fall in tiny taps, like soft punctuation. Somewhere close, a stem snaps under a careful hand, and the sound makes you wince, not because it's loud, but because you've begun to treat the night as something you don't want to bruise. You shift farther along the boundary where shrubs meet tall grass. The hollow's protection fades here, the wind is slightly sharper, and the damp clings harder. You lower yourself into a crouch, the indigo cloak pooling around your knees. The russet sash tightens at your waist, holding fabric close so it doesn't drag through mud. You part the grass in a slow V shape, palms facing down, fingers spread so you can feel anything that isn't plant. And then you feel it. Not a dramatic tug, not a satisfying discovery sound, just a different texture against your fingertips. Firm, fibrous, slightly slick, too smooth to be stem, too structured to be root. Your fingers pause. Your breath pauses. You lift the grass carefully, as if you're raising a sleeping animal from a nest. There it is, the cord. It lies half buried in damp earth, stretched slightly as if rainwater pulled it and then left it where it settled. The knots are still there, but their ridges feel softer, swollen from moisture. A teal tail clings to a blade of grass like a tiny flag refusing to fall. A turmeric thread is smeared with dark soil, its brightness dulled but not defeated. You gather the cord into your palms with slow relief, feeling its weight, heavier now, waterlogged, but undeniably present. You carry it back toward the hollow like you're transporting something alive. The tribe's attention turns as you approach, not in a sudden burst, but in a collective easing, shoulders lowering, hands unclenching, the subtle release that happens when a small fear dissolves. The lamp's glow catches the wet cord and makes its fibers shine faintly, shell gold where droplets cling. You set it near the woven reed basket, and for a moment everyone simply breathes, as if the return of this simple object had put the sky back in order. The problem isn't fully solved yet. The cord has traveled through storm water and grass. It has earned a little care. The tribe responds the way they respond to everything. Maintenance, not melodrama. A turmeric yellow cloth is unfolded and used to pat the cord dry, not rubbing harshly, just pressing gently to draw out moisture. A hand holds the cord near the lamp, not too close, never risking flame, letting warmth coax dampness away. The knots are inspected by feel. One section has loosened slightly, the tension altered by the cord being tugged and soaked. A teal thread tail has frayed at the end, fibers separating into soft fuzz. You watch the repair with the same quiet awe you felt watching the lamp's wick being trimmed. This is not a frantic fixing, it is restoration as routine. A small tool, just a thin split reed with smoothed ends, slides under a knot to lift it without stressing the fiber. Fingers retie the loosened section with consistent tension, not tighter, not looser, correct. The teal tail is trimmed clean and rewound through the knot so it sits snug again. The turmeric thread is wiped, then re-looped to mark its place. The cord is coiled neatly, and as it returns to its familiar shape, it feels like watching a spine straighten. Your own hands are invited into the work by proximity, by the open way the circle makes space. You hold one end while a knot is reset. You press cloth gently along a damp stretch. You feel the cord's texture change as it warms, less slick, more familiar, until it becomes itself again. The act is small, but it settles something in you. Recovery can be quiet. Repair can be calm. Lost things can return without you having to become someone you don't like in the process. Outside the hollow, the rain has fully thinned into a soft, lingering mist. The wind is tired. The tall grass beyond the shrubs sways slowly, heavy with droplets that catch any stray light and turn it into tiny sparks. The sky remains mostly veiled, but a couple of stars reappear, stubborn points of clarity that feel like reassurance rather than spectacle. The circle resettles after the search. Mats are re-angled, cloths are redistributed again. The herb bundle is crumbled near the lamp's base, and the scent returns, clean, green, faintly bitter, pushing back the damp's chill. The woven reed basket receives the repaired cord, and the basket's mouth is turned inward once more, as if closing a calm chapter. Hours pass in a softened hush. The tribe's breathing grows slower. The children, kept warm and close, slip into sleep in small, leaning piles of fabric and trust. You sit with the warm ache of wet grass still on your shins, but your mind is quieter now, soothed by the fact that a problem came and went without stealing the night. And then morning arrives the way it should, not with a loud announcement, but with a gradual easing of darkness. The clouds thin, pale light seeps into the hollow, droplets on grass turn silver, then gold. The brass lamp looks less like a glowing heart and more like a faithful tool resting after a long shift. The woven reed basket sits steady, holding the cord, time repaired, continuity intact. You breathe in cool morning air and smell wet earth, rinsed clean. You look at the tribe moving gently through the first tasks of day, shaking damp from cloth, checking the lamp, gathering small things into the basket, and you feel the lessons settle into your bones. Resilience doesn't have to roar. Sometimes it just finds what was lost, ties it back together, and lets the day begin softly.
The grass dries slowly in the newborn light. Every stalk carries its own glint of water. When wind brushes through, thousands of tiny suns ripple over the plain. You stand at the edge of the hollow, wrapped in the softened indigo of your cloak, russet sash tied fresh after the night's storm. The tribe moves around you without noise, each person following the rhythm that morning always gives them, an instinctive choreography of resetting the world. The brass oil lamp is emptied and cleaned. Its soot is wiped with damp cloth, the wick checked and trimmed to half a finger's width. The lamp, last night's fragile heartbeat, now looks ordinary again, useful, dependable, ready for another evening. Beside it, the woven reed basket is opened to the sun so the last of the moisture can lift. The cord lies coiled inside, drying, its knots slightly darkened by water but intact, each tiny ridge a fingerprint of survival. Breakfast begins not as an event but as a consequence. Seeds crushed yesterday are mixed with new ones, a paste thinned with water and spread in small cakes over a flat stone heated by embers. The smell that rises is earthy, faintly sweet. Someone brings herbs gathered before the rain and crushes them between fingers, sprinkling them over the cakes. The scent wakes you better than caffeine ever could, green, alive, clean after storm. You chew slowly when offered one, and taste the quiet proof that life keeps itself simple when it can. When work settles into steady motion, the tribe's attention turns upward again. The Milky Way has faded into daylight now, invisible yet present, the way memory lingers after dream. A few clouds remain, high, harmless, and between them the sky shines that impossible morning blue that only appears after a storm, like forgiveness made visible. The tribe does not speak, but the air feels thick with recollection. They lift their faces as though acknowledging old companions, then begin to draw faint lines in dust, tracing from horizon to horizon, using fingertips instead of stones. You recognize the gestures from earlier, the arcs of travel, the shifting positions of the Star River across seasons. They are redrawing the map for daylight eyes, grounding what was learned in darkness. An elder smooths a patch of earth and begins marking long curved paths with the side of a hand. Each motion erases a little of the night and replaces it with understanding. You kneel beside, watching the arcs become almost symmetrical, one curve for the Star River, one for the journeys it guided. Between them, smaller marks appear, little dots and slashes representing places where people rested, where the earth held them kindly. You are invited to add something, a gesture, 2 fingers pressed gently into damp soil where you sat last night. It feels like signing a document written in silence. The elder nods once, a small acknowledgement that the act has meaning. You've entered their continuity now, not as a visitor, but as someone who has participated in their pattern. The tribe's younger members begin gathering tall stalks, trimming them into shorter pieces. Some are bundled for later weaving, others are laid in shallow curves around the hollow. You notice they work in pairs, one holding, one tying, both breathing at the same pace. They do not rush. They never rush. Even now, when tasks could be finished faster, they choose the rhythm that lets conversation happen without words. Hold, tie, tighten, release. As the sun climbs higher, colors shift again. Turmeric yellow cloth gleams like the inside of ripe fruit. Teal-green thread looks freshly woven from the sky. The russet sashes at their waists catch red glints from the fire's dying coals. Everything belongs to the same palette, the one you've been living inside without realizing how carefully it was chosen. Mid-morning brings another small ritual. No ceremony this time, just gratitude disguised as practicality. A bowl of clean water is passed around the circle. Each person dips fingers, flicks droplets toward the ground, and wipes palms together. It is hand-washing, yes, but also acknowledgement. Last night's worry, rain, and loss are rinsed off. What's left is renewal. When the bowl reaches you, the water feels cool and alive. You mimic the gesture, droplets darkening dust at your feet, tiny moons evaporating in sunlight. The tribe begins preparing to travel. Mats are rolled, bundles tied, reeds stacked. The lamp is wrapped in its cloth and placed carefully into the basket. The repaired cord is coiled and set atop it like a crown of patience. You help fold a mat, aligning edges, tucking corners. No one commands or corrects. Everyone moves as though the instructions were already written into their bodies. Before leaving, they pause for one last look upward. The Milky Way can't be seen now, but heads tilt anyway, remembering its path. It's not worship, it's gratitude to a guide that never truly leaves, even when invisible. You find yourself doing the same, closing your eyes and seeing the pale band across darkness, remembering how it once divided the sky into certainty and wonder. The elder who drew in dust smooths the lines away with an open palm, not to erase, but to return the ground to readiness. The gesture feels right. The memory stays. The marks don't need to. A breeze moves through, light and fragrant, carrying the scent of drying grass. You stand with the tribe as they shoulder their small loads, and the hollow that sheltered you feels both full and emptied, a cup drained clean and waiting for the next pour. As you walk out through tall grass, the land glitters around you, droplets winking like low stars. The sun warms your back, the earth steadies your step, and behind you the circle you helped sustain dissolves into wildness again, leaving only flattened grass, a faint ring of ash, and the memory of calm that doesn't need witnesses to remain true.
You walk with them through the day in a quiet line that never quite looks like a line, because the grasslands don't like rigid shapes. The tall stalks part and close behind you, leaving no loud evidence you were ever here, only a faint memory of flattened stems that will stand back up by sunset, as if privacy is part of the grassland's etiquette. By late afternoon, the damp from the storm is a rumor. The sun has coaxed water from reeds and cloth, and the air carries that clean, warmed grass scent that feels like the world has been rinsed and hung out to dry. Your indigo cloak is lighter now, no longer clinging with moisture. The russet sash at your waist sits firm, a small, familiar pressure that keeps you anchored when your thoughts try to wander ahead. The tribe chooses a new place to settle for the evening, open enough to welcome the sky, sheltered enough to keep the wind respectful. It isn't dramatic. They don't discover it like a movie scene. They simply recognize the right balance. Ground that's firm, grass that's tall but not choking, a slight rise that offers a view without inviting gusts to act like they own you. Packing becomes preparing, and preparing becomes comfort. Mats are unrolled and shaken once, then laid with edges aligned. Bundles are opened and rearranged so the night's essentials sit near the top: herbs, cloth, tinder, cord. The woven reed basket, your old teacher, settles near the center like it's taking its rightful place in the story again. The brass oil lamp is unwrapped carefully and set down with the kind of care that says, yes, it is a tool, and yes, it is also a small guardian of warmth. You help the way you've learned to help, quietly, with hands that don't rush. You gather a few flat stones for a low fire ring, placing them with gaps for airflow instead of packing them tight. You press the surrounding soil down with your palm, sealing dust so it won't lift if the wind returns in one of its moody phases.
You lay a folded turmeric yellow cloth nearby, ready for knees or shoulders when the night cools. None of it feels like ceremony, yet it all feels meaningful, because you understand now that comfort is engineered, not wished for. As the sun drops, the color palette returns like a familiar chord. Indigo deepens in cloth and sky. Russet warms the earth's shadows. Turmeric yellow glows in wraps and hems. Teal threads catch the last light and hold it. Shell gold highlights flicker briefly on the lamp's brass, then fade as dusk thickens. The first stars appear, and your body responds before your mind can evaluate anything. Shoulders soften. Breath deepens. It's almost embarrassing how quickly you have learned to trust this routine, like your nervous system has been waiting your whole life for someone to show it a simpler way. The lamp is lit. The flame blooms, then steadies, disciplined behind its shield. The woven basket opens, offering its quiet inventory. A pinch of dried herbs is crumbled near warmth, and the air sweetens into that clean, resinous scent that makes insects reconsider their life choices. You remember the storm, the sudden downpour, the frantic but not frantic search in wet grass, and the feel of the cord's wet weight in your palms when you found it. The memory doesn't spike you, it steadies you, because you already know how this group meets trouble, calmly, together, without theatrics. The circle forms again, and it feels unmistakably like the last time, not because anyone announces it, but because the movements are slightly more deliberate, as if each hand knows it is touching a moment that will become memory. Mats are smoothed twice, not once. Cloth is tucked a little more carefully. The basket is set just so. The cord, repaired, dried, coiled, rests near the top like a quiet crown of continuity. Above, the Milky Way begins to show, and this time it feels like recognition instead of discovery. The Star River stretches across the dark in its familiar curve, textured with dense light and dark lanes. The haze is gone. The sky is crisp enough that you can see fine differences, thin dustings of stars that would have been invisible to you a few nights ago. You realize with a soft internal laugh that your eyes haven't improved, your attention has. The tribe chooses to read the sky again, but tonight it is less lesson and more shared reassurance. Stones are placed on the ground to mirror the curve, and your hands follow without being guided. You pick a smooth stone that catches a shell gold flicker from the lamp and set it where the bright stretch thickens. Another stone marks a cluster that sits just off the river's edge. A faint dust line marks the horizon. Up to the stars, down to the stones, up again. The rhythm is familiar enough now to feel like breathing. A shallow bowl is brought out again, not because visibility is poor, but because reflection has become part of the comfort. Water stills under the night. The Milky Way trembles in its surface, and for a moment you hold two skies at once, one above, one below. It feels like the tribe is giving you an extra layer of softness, like adding another blanket because they can tell you've earned it. You run your fingertips along the knotted cord in the basket, just once, privately. The knots are dry now, ridges clear again. You feel the spacing, the clusters, the solitary marks, and your chest warms at the thought that time can be held like this, quietly, without alarm. You don't take the cord out. You don't need to. The comfort is knowing it's there. The night deepens. The lamp's glow stays steady. The herb scent lingers. Tall grass sways in long, slow waves at the perimeter, whispering like the land is trying to lull you on purpose. Somewhere farther out, an animal calls once, then quiets, as if remembering the tribe is awake and the night is not free to be chaotic. You sit with tender restraint, letting the final stargaze be simple, no last-minute striving, no attempt to squeeze the moment for meaning like a lemon. You just let it exist. Warmth on your face, cool air on your wrists, the Milky Way flowing overhead, the tribe's steady presence beside you, the basket and lamp and cord all in their familiar places. And you begin to sense the gentle truth beneath it all. It isn't a goodbye yet, not officially, not spoken. It's something quieter and older, an understanding that the night is giving you one last clear map, one last calm pattern, one last chance to store the feeling of being held by grass and sky and human steadiness. You let that feeling settle into you, deep and slow, like a knot tied correctly, firm enough to hold, gentle enough to never hurt.
Dawn arrives quietly, almost shyly, as if it doesn't want to wake you too fast and make you remember you have a life. The indigo of the sky thins into a softer blue. The Milky Way fades, not vanishing so much as retreating behind daylight, like a river slipping underground. Tall grass stands around the camp in long blades silvered with dew, and each time the breeze stirs, the droplets flash and dim like low stars. You sit for one last moment before you move. The brass oil lamp rests near the center, cool now, its shield still angled toward last night's wind. The woven reed basket sits beside it, mouth turned inward, holding the repaired cord with its tidy knots, a folded turmeric cloth, and the herb bundle that kept the insects polite. These simple things feel steadying, warmth, continuity, and a reminder that calm is something you can build. Morning work begins as a sequence. Mats roll, cloth folds, stones that mirrored the Star River are gathered and returned to earth. The shallow bowl used for reflection is emptied and wiped clean. Nothing is left messy, not because the tribe is fussy, but because order is one of their gentlest forms of care. You help because your hands already know what to do. You wrap the lamp in cloth, careful of the wick, respectful of the soot marks that prove it has worked. You lift the basket and feel its familiar creak, reeds flexing, then settling into strength. You remember your first clumsy weave and that lopsided base that refused to behave until you softened your grip. The lesson returns. Steadiness comes from gentleness, not force. The tribe rises and begins to move. Bodies stand, sashes are tightened, bundles are shouldered. The children, still drowsy, are guided into readiness with quiet hands, and no one is rushed for being slow. Your russet sash is retied, snug enough to anchor you, loose enough to breathe. Your indigo cloak falls into place around your shoulders, and for a second you feel like you're wearing last night itself, just folded smaller and carried forward. You walk out through tall grass, and the stems brush your legs with cool dew. Droplets flick onto your skin, and you resist the urge to be annoyed, because you've learned here that discomfort doesn't have to become a story. The horizon looks clean after the storm, washed, bright, uncomplicated. The wind is gentle now, a tired companion rather than an opponent. Even in daylight, the tribe keeps orientation the same way they kept it under stars. Observe, confirm, adjust. Heads tilt to the slope of ground, the texture of grass, the way shrubs gather where moisture lingers. You follow, and your breathing matches their pace. The basket knocks softly against your arm with each step, a reassuring weight. Inside, the cord's knots press faintly through cloth, and you remember finding it in wet grass, heavy, slick, almost invisible,
then watching it be dried and retied with patience instead of panic. The memory doesn't sting now. It settles like a hand placed lightly on your shoulder. You remember herb smoke returning after rain, the lamp holding steady behind its shield, and the water bowl catching trembling star points when the Milky Way was veiled. You remember how the night didn't collapse just because it changed shape. You realize the whole journey was practice, building comfort on purpose, and learning that small problems don't have to become big storms inside you. The land rises slightly ahead, and the path divides naturally, one direction toward thicker grass and lower ground, another toward higher land where the sun hits earlier. The tribe slows. They do not stop with ceremony. They pause just long enough for you to understand what is happening. This is the moment where your time with them ends, and it ends the way everything here has ended, without forcing your heart to sprint. You set the basket down once just to rest your arm. The wrapped lamp inside gives a soft, familiar weight. The cord lies coiled and quiet, time made touchable, time made repairable. You look back at the place where you last watched the Milky Way, now only a bright morning sky, and you feel the tenderness of loss without the sting. You walk beside them for a few more breaths, letting the tall grass brush your legs as if it is smoothing the last wrinkles of night from your skin. Then the distance widens. Their colors, turmeric and teal, become smaller flashes among green. The movements that once formed a circle become a gentle forward drift, purposeful and unhurried. You stop. You watch until they are no longer clearly people, only a shifting rhythm in the grass that could be wind if you didn't know better. The grass closes behind them, standing upright again, hiding the path like a secret kept kindly. The world looks almost the same as it did before you arrived, which is the whole point. The land doesn't need proof, and the calm doesn't need witnesses. You lift your face to the sky one last time. You cannot see the Milky Way now, but you can feel where it would be, flowing behind blue, patient and unchanged. You imagine the tribe watching it tonight from somewhere else, lamp glowing, basket waiting, herbs scenting the air, stones mapping the star river on packed earth. And you realize you can do a version of that too. You can shield a small flame. You can make a pocket of warmth. You can place a few stones in your day, slower breaths, steadier attention, small choices that keep you from spilling yourself everywhere. You turn and walk on, carrying the tribe's method in your shoulders and your breath. Tall grass whispers behind you. Daylight brightens ahead. And somewhere beneath the blue, the Star River keeps flowing, steady enough to guide you back to rest whenever you remember to look up, at night at least, when you're done being impressive.
You keep walking, but you no longer feel like you are leaving something behind as much as you are carrying it forward. The air is warmer now, and the dew has already begun to lift from the grass, rising in thin, invisible threads that make the morning feel softly enchanted. Each step is ordinary, and that is the comfort of it. Ordinary steps can still be guided. In your mind, the Star River returns the way it does in a half-remembered dream, a pale band, a steady curve, a wide, patient path across darkness. You let it settle behind your eyes without gripping it. You let the image float, and you let your shoulders drop another fraction.
Your hands remember the basket's rough reeds, the lamp's smooth brass, the cord's little knots that turned worry into structure. You breathe in, slow and deep, and you imagine that same breath warming a small flame, then shielding it. The grass whispers, and the sound becomes softer, like someone turning down a radio you didn't realize was playing. Your thoughts also quiet, one by one, as if they are lying down on their own mats. The day can wait. The next task can wait. For a few more heartbeats, you are allowed to be unproductive, unimpressive, and completely safe. When night comes again, wherever you are, you remember to look up. And if you forget, that is fine too. The sky will not take it personally. It will be there, steady and kind, ready to meet you the moment you return. Now you let your eyelids feel heavy. You let your jaw loosen. You let the last light fade into a gentle blur, and you drift quietly into rest. Sleep comes softly, like grass bending, under the breath of night.